Sir, it's 4 o'clock. James's helper called over the intercom that the meeting with the wedding planner was about to begin. First James Mitchell looked at his Rolex, and then he looked at the Forbes magazine on his desk. The cover of the magazine showed him. "Tell her I'll be there in 5 minutes." The weight of the event he was about to attend made him loosen his tie. The door to his office flew open. His fiancée, Victoria Chase, walked in wearing a designer dress that most people's monthly salary would pay for. "Jamie, sweetheart, let's talk about the list of people who are coming. I thought we were done with it yesterday." James stroked his light hair, which was turning gray. "We did," but Victoria sat down on his desk and tapped the glass with her perfectly groomed nails. "Why does it have the name of your ex-wife on it?" James smiled, but it didn't go all the way to his eyes. "I want her to see what she missed, sweetheart." "That's small." Victoria raised an eyebrow. "I love it. They broke up 6 years ago because she said he was too focused on his new business to build a real relationship." James wanted to show Sarah how much her worried leaving had cost her now that he had a tech vision worth billions and was about to marry a woman 10 years younger than him. His assistant informed him over the intercom that the wedding plan was still being worked on. "Coming." James stood up and straightened his custom-made suit. "Victoria, believe me, Sarah must understand that leaving was the worst thing she could have done." Vicky thought, "You never talk about her. Was it really that bad?" James's jaw got tight. "I was mentally unavailable," she said, "and I cared more about my computers than building a family." She left just as Tech Vision was taking off. He laughed. "See what I got for my hard work." Victoria purred to me as she kissed his face and talked about our perfect wedding in 3 weeks. When they walked into the meeting room, the wedding planner was setting up sample centerpieces, but James didn't see the crystal vases or exotic flowers. Sarah had paused at the door the day she left, as if she had something important to say. This made him think of her face. The wedding planner's voice shook him awake and told him to change his mind about where to sit. "Put Sarah Thompson at table 8, he told her firmly, "so she can see everything she gave up." Victoria put her hand on his arm. "Are you sure about this?" "Of course." James took out his phone and looked at Sarah's old number, which he had never erased. "In fact, I think I'll hand-deliver this note myself. That's something I'd like to see." The room was filled with the sound of Victoria's laugh. James looked at his phone and thought about what Sarah had said last. "James, one day you'll understand what life is all about. I hope it's still not too late." He would show her what was important. His huge business, his lovely young fiancée, and his perfect life. He should have known that plan was going to fail horribly. The neighborhood in the suburbs looked just like James remembered it. Sarah's simple 2-story house stood out with its bright blue door and flower boxes that were full, which is so Sarah. He turned off his Tesla's engine and just sat there with a wedding invitation burning a hole in his pocket. In the front yard, a child's bike was lying on its side. He thought it was strange. Sarah never said that she wanted kids. The sound of the buzzer hadn't changed either. James made his tie straight, practiced his smile, and then he waited. Sarah's voice called out from inside, "Coming." When the door opened, she walked in, looking too good to be true. She had less hair now, but the love in her eyes that made him want to be with her was still there. "James?" She actually blinked in surprise. "Who are you?" "To Sarah." He took out the cream-colored envelope. "Delivery on demand." It looked like she didn't understand what she was doing when she took it. "You came all this way to give me a—" Her voice broke as she read the invitation. "You're getting married? In 3 weeks." He had to add, "To Victoria Chase. Social media may have put you in touch with her. 3 million people follow you." The way Sarah looked at him didn't make him feel good like he had hoped. Instead, she looked stuck up. "Congratulations," she said slowly. "But why do you want to ask me?" "Can't an old friend, James, we haven't talked in 6 years." There was a crash inside the house and then kids laughed. Sarah's head turned around. "Boys? What did I say about having a ball game inside?" "Boys?" "Several." "I'm sorry, Mom." A lot of voices answered back. James tried to look through her into the house, but Sarah moved and blocked his view. She said, "Thank you for the invitation. I'm gonna think about it." "Who was that?" He made a hand motion toward the noise. My boys. Her answer was cut off. Sons? Like more than one? Sarah's grip on the door got stronger. It was great to see you, James. Once more, congratulations on your proposal. Mom, Tommy stole my game controller. Inside, a small voice spoke. Didn't Daniels lie? Take a break. Both of you. There was a third voice. James's mind went blank. 3 sounds. 3 different boy sounds. Sarah quickly said, I should go. Wish you the best with the wedding. Before he could think about what he had heard, the door shut behind him. 3 boys. And something about the way they spoke. What their names are. When James got back to his car, he took out his phone and did the math. It's been 6 years since they split up. If Sarah was expecting when she left. He said, no, I would have known because she told her. However, the question followed him as he drove away. As if Sarah's worry when she read his invitation wasn't enough. She seemed scared. And James Mitchell didn't build a tech company by not listening to his gut. Mom, is he not there? Michael peered around the corner while Sarah leaned against the door that was shut. She said yes and held on to the note so tightly that it got crumpled. Do your homework again, sweetheart. But there were already a lot of boys in the hallway. Their blue eyes were the same. His eyes. A lot of questions. What kind of man was that? Thomas asked. Sarah took care of someone I used to know. Daniel, didn't you need to study for math? Was that our dad? Daniel, who is always smartest, got it right on the head. Sarah sank down on the stairs, and her sons sat around her like guardian stars. Took 6 years of careful planning. Of making their own little world. Threatened by one sudden visit. Yes, she finally said it. That was your dad. Does he know we're here? Michael had a soft voice. Not yet. Sarah drew them close. He might figure it out soon, though. Her phone rang. A text message from her sister Claire. Hurry up. Please call me. Sarah didn't need to call to find out what was going on. Claire worked as a public relations officer for TechVision. News spread quickly. Boys, get your work done. I need to call someone. Sarah called Claire from her small home office, which was full of papers from her 4th grade class. Before Claire could say anything, Sarah said, He came to my house. With the invitation to the wedding. I understand. He has been telling everyone in the office about his plans to make you look bad. Claire took a breath. Sarah, you need to tell him. I understand. Sarah watched her boys kick a soccer ball around the garden through the window. Claire, they're happy. We're pleased. James is going to marry someone. Why make things more difficult now? Because he asked you to come to his wedding. To show up. And when you come with 3 copies of yourself. Who told me to go? Sarah Thompson, you've had those boys by yourself for 6 years. Giving their father reasons to be angry. To give them everything. I work 2 jobs. Now he wants to show you how much better off he is without you. Sarah saw Thomas help Daniel get back on his feet after he fell. Michael ran over and pulled a Band-Aid out of his pocket. Just like she taught them, always ready. She finally said, You're right. I won't let him hurt them, though. Of course not. However, Claire was unsure. They might have the right to know who their dad is. He might deserve to know them, too. When Sarah got off the phone, she saw that the boys had stopped playing soccer and were now huddled over her laptop. Mom, Michael spoke up. Is this him? The CEO of TechVision, James Mitchell? On the screen was a Forbes story about the most eligible bachelor in Silicon Valley who was about to get married. When Sarah saw her boys, their dad's hair, eyes, and determined chin, she knew what she had to do. Boys, get your clothes ready, we're going to a wedding. The invite was on her desk, open. James Mitchell and Victoria Chase would love to have you over. Sarah let a small smile show on her face. They didn't know what kind of guests were coming. Mom, Michael has taken over the mirror again. Thomas yelled from the hall. Daniel was the one who fixed his hair for 20 minutes. Sarah juggled 3 lunchboxes that were all the same while getting through the morning chaos. Boys, the bus is coming in 10 minutes. The triplets stomped down the stairs in their school clothes, their backpacks bouncing behind them. Even though they looked the same, they already had different identities by the time they were 10. Since Michael was 4 minutes older than his brother, he checked his ties. Tom, yours is not straight. Thomas said, stop being a mom to us. But he said Michael should fix it anyway. Daniel, the youngest, was buried in a book. Did you know that when Dad started his business, it was worthless? Sarah was almost going to drop the lunches. Where did you read that? Go online. Daniel showed his tablet. Like you always tell us to do, he built it from scratch. The boys had been crazy about their dad since James came to visit 3 days ago. He was always being searched for on Google, and they were watching his TED Talks and reading about tech vision. Mom? Michael asked with care. Why did you not tell him about us? Sarah set the food down for lunch. It's hard to explain, sweetheart. Thomas said, we're not babies anymore. Complex things are fine with us. That looked a lot like their dad's face when he was working on a really hard computer problem. She thought, when we were together, your dad was very focused on his work. He put in 18-hour days and missed birthdays and vacations. Daniel said that he's now successful, though. Each person has their own idea of what success means. Sarah looked over their bags. I longed for a family. He wanted a big country. Michael said in a low voice, and now he's getting married. Thomas added that it was to someone named Victoria Chase. She has an effect. Daniel helped and his teeth were really white. Sarah couldn't hold back her laughter. Have you guys been following your dad's fiancée around? They were smart enough to look like they were guilty. Michael said, we just wanted to know about our other family. Outside, the school bus honked. Sarah said she would do it tonight. Tonight, we'll talk more about it and the wedding. Their faces lit up. Are we going? We'll see. She gave each of them a hug. Have a great school day. Don't look things up in class anymore. Sarah took out her phone and the folded note as she watched them get on the bus. It was time to say yes. Hi Claire, it's me. Tell me everything you know about the wedding. She saw her boys gathered together through the bus window. They were probably already making plans for what to wear, what to say, and how to meet the father they had been curious about for so long. Sarah typed out her answer. There will be Sarah Thompson and 3 other people there. Time to start counting down. The ballroom at the St. Regis Hotel was packed with the best people in Silicon Valley. James stood in the middle and accepted the compliments while Victoria easily charmed the investors. The wedding planner gushed that the bride's table arrangements looked beautiful, and the guest list. James wasn't paying attention. He kept looking back at the door. He had asked Sarah to come, but she hadn't replied to his RSVP. Jamie, Victoria told him to come over. The Rothschild family wants to talk about their investment. He put on his best CEO smile and faced the investors. That's when the talking began. Silence for a while, then a wave of gasps and then only whispers. James turned around. While Sarah stood in the hallway in a simple blue dress, there was silence. It wasn't her. It was the 3 boys with her. They were all wearing the same suit and had their white hair combed to the side. It was his hair, eyes, and face 3 times over. Oh my God, Victoria said in a whisper next to him. The boys moved at the same time, standing on either side of their mother like little protectors. The short one, or was it him, had a book close to his chest. The middle one stood his ground and kept his chin up. The biggest person looked around the room with eyes that were just as calculated as James's. I got it, Sarah, James said in a voice that was barely audible. James. She moved forward, and the boys moved with her. Good luck with your marriage. Victoria lost her grip on her champagne glass, and it broke on the marble floor. It wasn't cleaned up by anyone. These are my sons, Sarah said in a calm voice. She took a moment to think about Michael, Thomas, and Daniel. Your sons? The room turned around. James grabbed a close chair to help him stand up. Victoria snapped back. That's not possible. James, you need to tell her that's not possible. But James was wrong and counting backwards. 6 years. Sarah's doubt at the door as she left, and the sickness she brought on by worry. How this began. Sarah said in a low voice, I found out the day after I left. You were getting money for your Series A round. You were clear that you couldn't handle any other things. Distractions? His voice broke. They are my kids. Michael said, we're 10, the tallest boy. We like to code and play sports. Also books, I added the one with the book. The third part is done, we've read everything about you. James fell to the ground. His eyes looked at him with 3 sets of eyes. Victoria said, "This is ridiculous. Lawyers will need DNA tests." "Already done," Sarah said as she took out a bag. "Their birth documents, health records, and DNA tests. I made copies of everything." The wedding planner passed out. James didn't even notice. He couldn't take his eyes off of his kids, who were also staring at him very intently. Sarah said in a soft voice, "Let's talk, everyone." James saw Victoria stomping out as the last thing he saw before everything went dark. As he fell, his 3 kids rushed forward to catch him as a unit, like he taught his teams of coders to do. Sarah gave James a glass of water and said, "Drink this." They sat in a room off the main hall that was just for them, away from the shocked looks and camera phones. The boys were still in perfect order as they sat on a leather couch across from him. It was like seeing 3 copies of pictures of himself as a child. "How long were you going to hide this from me?" His voice was very low. "From the start, forever." Sarah sat next to their boys. "After that, you showed up with that invite." James told her, "To hurt you. I meant for you to get hurt. We know because Michael said so. We read about how well your business did. Your mom says you picked that over family." James sucked his thumb. "Did you tell them that?" Sarah answered, "Only the truth. I chose not to make things harder for you because you were working on something important." The door flew open. Victoria stood there with her makeup a little smeared. "The guests are going. This is a terrible mess." James began, "Vic, please. Please don't Vic me. You didn't tell me about your 3 kids." James said in a whisper, "I didn't know. Does she always act this way?" Thomas asked his brothers out loud so that everyone could hear. Daniel laughed to himself behind his book. Sarah had to hold back a smile. Victoria got red in the face. "I can't. I need some time to think." She turned around and walked away. Again there was silence. James looked at his kids in public now. Michael, the one who watches out. Thomas, the brave one. Daniel, who kept quiet and watched. He would never remember those 6 years. He finally said, "The wedding is in 2 weeks." The boys all said, "We know. I need to think about this." Sarah got up. "Of course. Boys, tell your dad goodbye." Dad. He felt like he was hit by the word. Michael was the first to move forward and officially extend his hand. "It's nice to meet you, sir." Thomas waved without much thought. "Your structure for writing code for TechVision's main tool is great." Daniel did nothing but nod and hold on to his book tighter. James called after them as they left. "What's your favorite now?" "Everything? I need to know everything." Sarah stopped at the door. "You should come by tomorrow, right? We can all talk properly." James could only nod and not speak. He sat in the room by himself and looked at his image in the window after they left. 3 boys. Because he was too busy building his business to notice what he was losing. 3 perfect, smart boys had grown up without him. His phone rang. Vicky sent a text. Weddings were put off. Need room. For the first time in his life, James Mitchell didn't have a clear plan for what to do next. He was less scared of that than the thought of losing his kids again. Sarah joined James on the back porch of her house and said, "They're asleep." It had been a week since the big dinner. James said in a low voice, "They're amazing." He was still thinking about the night he had spent playing board games with his boys. "Michael played chess better than me. He's better than everyone at chess. Thomas broke into my phone. That's what he does. And Daniel? Hasn't put down the book on quantum physics you gave him?" Sarah gave a grin. "They are without a doubt your kids." James looked at her. "Why did you not tell me?" "The real reason." Sarah was still and watched the fireflies in her small backyard for a long time. "Remember the week before I left? I was putting an end to the Series A funds. I tried to let you know I wasn't feeling good. 3 times. All of the time you were on talks." James thought of it now. Her pale face in the doorway to his office. He waved her away while he talked to backers. "You had that big show the morning I found out I was pregnant." Sarah's voice was steady. I quote, "Today, nothing can distract me. Tech Vision needs to do it for the future. Sarah, I saw you work on your pitch that morning. You kept telling me that Tech Vision was your baby. My will. She turned around to look at him. I made a choice. Your child or ours. It's not fair. It wasn't, though. Not to them or you. But I was sick, scared, and tired of seeing my husband pick his friends over me every day. James slouched in his chair. I would have done something different. Would you? Sarah pushed back. James, be honest. What would you have done if I had told you back then? He gave it some thought. About himself when he was younger. Focused on being successful. Willing to show everyone they're wrong. I'm not sure. Sure. It would have cost you a lot of money. Make trust funds. Hired babysitters. Plan trips from time to time in between board meetings. Sarah's voice was a little rough. They did need a parent, though. Not in charge of a portfolio. Now? What do they need now? Why not ask them? Sarah got up. Also, they're not asleep. They may be listening at the door right now. 3 clear thumps and scrambling sounds proved what she thought. James couldn't hold back his laughter. Without a doubt, those are my kids. Sarah agreed in a soft voice. Yes, they are. The question is whether you are ready to be their dad. James's phone rang before he could answer. The name Victoria showed up on the screen. Sarah saw it. Take that. Things sound like you need to decide something. She left him on the porch where he looked at his phone and thought about his legacy. Both the one he had made and the one he almost lost. The board meeting starts in 10 minutes, sir. James's helper told him on the phone. Do not do it. But, sir, the forecasts for each quarter. Tom can handle it. James moved his rearview mirror and looked at the door to the elementary school. I'm having lunch with my boys. He ended the call just as 3 people who looked exactly the same ran down the stairs. When they saw his Tesla, their faces lit up. Thomas yelled, "Shotgun that." Michael said, "No way. I am older." By the 4th minute, Daniel had quietly slid into the back seat and was already reading. James said, "Everyone gets a turn." He was still amazed at how easy this felt after only 2 weeks. Michael today, Thomas tomorrow, and Daniel after that. Fair, they all said. At the burger place they picked, James asked them questions as he watched them eat their food. Did you really write your first program when you were 8 years old? Thomas asked with his fries still in his mouth. 7, to be exact. A simple game. Michael added, Mom says you met at a tech conference. She was showing off a project for teaching software. James smiled as he thought about it. Destroyed my whole show. Daniel took his eyes off his book. Are you getting married still? There was no clear answer to the question. His meal was put down by James. Vicky and I are going to be apart for a while. Because of us? Michael had a soft voice. James said no very strongly. Because I need to decide what's most important to me. Thomas said, Mom says that's what caused you to break up in the first place. Not good goals. James looked at their faces. So young and smart at the same time. A lot of what your mom said was true. Daniel said something inaudible. James's phone rang again. Another trouble at work. Another board member who wants your attention. The man turned off the phone. Do you want ice cream? Right away, 3 hands shot up. James felt something he hadn't felt in years when he dropped them off at school later. Peace. There were no stock prices going through his mind. No purchasing deals that need your attention. There were only 3 boys waving goodbye. Their uniform shirts were stained with ice cream. It's likely that his helper was losing it. It's possible that the board was a mess. Victoria had 3 messages on her phone. But for the first time in his life, James Mitchell knew what was most important. As they walked back to school, they fought over who would get to ride shotgun tomorrow. Victoria found James in his home office, where 3 computers were showing schedules for kids' soccer leagues. I see what you've been up to. She picked up a youth baseball catalog. James turned down the screens while our wedding plans fell through. Let's talk. About your hidden family? Or about how you've missed all of your meetings with the wedding planner to change the date? He pointed to a chair and said, Both. Please sit down. Victoria stood there with her arms crossed. Sorry for taking so long, James. Given you time to think about what's going on. But it's been 3 weeks. Victoria, they are not a situation. They are my kids. Who you met today. Who were kept from you. Aren't you mad about that? James leaned back and thought. First, yes. But Sarah was right about who I was at that time. Now? What are you now? Victoria's voice got softer. Because the James the first agreed to marry was making a giant tech company. Not going shopping for baseball gear. I wish I could be both. Both? She laughed really hard. This week alone you've canceled 3 board meetings. The deal with Microtech to buy the company is holding up. There are lots of rumors going around in the news. The business will stay open. Will we be together? James looked her in the eyes. Depends on what. Can you understand that my objectives have changed? What's different? They've gone the other way. Vicky walked around the room. Your past was said to be more important than anything else at TechVision. I was wrong. Were you? Take a look at what that drive made. She waved her hand around the house. We were meant to share this life. A life built on missed chances and working too much. James got up. I'm done missing their lives. Victoria stopped walking around. They are your choice. I've chosen to be their dad. Over being my husband. Over being the man you loved. James made a small correction. Because of that guy? He was not a good parent. Or most likely a good husband. Victoria slouched her shoulders down. She took off her engagement ring and put it on his desk. James, goodbye. She stopped at the door. For what it's worth, those boys are fortunate. This kind of you? He might be a good person to have as a father. James opened up the soccer plans again after she left. There were spots open on 3 different teams. His boys would need shoes, cleats, and knee guards. His phone rang. A message from Sarah. The boys want to know if you're still going to tomorrow's science fair. With a smile, James cleared his calendar. Some decisions were made for you. I can tell you the truth, James. He had Tom, his CFO, slide the quarterly report across the table. The value of our company has dropped by 15% since the news about your personal situation spread. James scanned the file, very aware of how tense things are in the meeting. 8 business leaders were waiting for him to answer. Their looks changed from worried to angry. Personal matter, James said again. Do you mean my kids? Patricia from Law spoke up and said, the timing is bad. With Microtech's purchase, my kids are not having bad timing. James had a strong voice. Next thing. Tom said, there is no next point. That's the point. In 2 months, you've missed 6 very important talks. The news is making up stories about instability and bad administration. Investors are scared. Then let them feel scared. James got up. The meeting was over. Patricia said, we're not done yet. In fact, we are. There is a meeting between me and the parents at 3. There were whispers in the boardroom. When Tom called out, James was almost to the door. A vote of no confidence is being thought about by the board. James stopped moving, slowly turned. Tom went on, you built this company, but it looks like you're more interested in building something else these days. A family? An eye-catcher? James went back to the table and put both hands on its smooth surface. Just so you know, the way tech works is important to me. But you will not like what happens if you make me pick between my job here and my kids. Is that a threat? It's a promise. James stood up straight. I own most of the shares. With 1 phone call, I can get rid of the board. Patricia nervously moved her papers around. That would really hurt the price. Then don't make me pick. James looked at his watch. Please excuse me. I need to go meet my son's math teacher. James let out a slow breath and loosened his tie in his car. 3 calls had been missed on his phone. 2 from the PR team and 1 from Sarah. They were all investors. He called Sarah again. How did the meeting go? She asked. As expected, it went about as well. How are the boys? Ready to show you their grades. Daniel got an A in P2. James smiled. He could already feel the stress in the boardroom going away. Tell them I'm going to come. He stopped the call and turned on the car's engine. In the rearview mirror, he saw himself. The man who stared back wasn't the same one who 2 months ago asked his ex-wife to his wedding. That man would have picked the business. This person didn't need to think about it. Dad. Pay attention. Thomas was skating on a very thin board. Be careful. Thomas was wobbling when James charged at him, but Michael was already there to support his brother. He doesn't listen. Michael sighed and sounded just like Sarah. They were in James's garden, which had new sports equipment, a treehouse that was still being built, and 3 bikes that were all the same. Daniel sat on the grass with his legs crossed and read a book while watching his brothers. Dad? Daniel called. Could you explain what quantum entanglement is? After he told me why my code wasn't working, Thomas cut him off and dropped his skateboard. He will help me with my science project after that. Michael replied. James was very stressed out, but in a good way. Thomas, show me the code one step at a time. All 4 of them sat with their backs to each other around Thomas's laptop. James pointed out the missing semicolon and explained the mistake in reasoning. When the program ran, Thomas's face lit up with joy. What about quantum entanglement? Daniel asked with hope. Michael demanded that the science project come first. Tomorrow is the due date. Tomorrow? James made a face. Why did you not bring it up earlier? Michael took a look down. How did you hold that big meeting with investors? Hey, James got down on his knees to look at his son. It's more important than anything else to help you. Do you get it? All 3 boys nodded, but James saw that they were all looking at each other with doubt. He had to miss 2 visits over the weekend because of work issues. They were keeping track of the points just like he used to do when his own father wasn't there. James said there was a new rule. No more sneaking around my plans. You tell me if you need me. Okay then. Thomas gave him a high five. Even at 3 a.m. Daniel asked in a serious way. Even at 3 a.m. Michael said, your mom says you used to work until 3 a.m. Mom is right again. James gave a smile. Things do change, though. People change. His phone rang. Another board member who wants your attention. James turned it off without looking. What about quantum entanglement? He looked at Daniel. Think of it as 3 boys. Aside from Michael's volcano project, they did math, code, and other things all afternoon. James' hair was stuck in glue. His dress shirt was stained with grass. And he learned to value Sarah's kindness even more. There was baking soda and vinegar all over all 4 of them when Sarah went to get them. Michael was proud to say that the explosion worked. In the end, Thomas said. Daniel made it clear that Sarah raised an eyebrow at James's ruined shirt after the 3rd blast. Worth it, he said in his head. She smiled, and James saw a flash of the way she used to look at him before Tech Vision, before she was so focused on success, and before she was disappointed and could not understand him. Mr. Mitchell, you need to look over these papers right away. James's lawyer put papers all over his desk at home. James quickly read the first page. Trust funds. For your boys. Standard practice when someone has a lot of money. The lawyer put his glasses back on. We've written up different trusts for each boy that can be used at age 25. 21. Given the amount, sir. These kids are responsible. James thought about how well Michael planned, how creative Thomas was, and how wise Daniel was in a quiet way. I believe in them. Good job. There were more studies. Now let's divide the company shares evenly among them. The lawyer took a break. That's almost 40% of Tech Vision, Mr. Mitchell. That's good that they're starting to code early. James didn't think twice about signing the papers. A voice came from the doorway and cleared its throat. Victoria stood there, and she looked both classy and mad. She said, "That's right. You're leaving behind a gift. Vicky, I came to give you some things back." A small box was left on his desk by her. "I heard that you were changing how the company works. I get it now." The lawyer carefully put together his papers. "I'll have these handled right away." Vicky took one of the trust papers when they were alone. "A lot of money just like that. They are my kids. They are not related to you, but they share your DNA." The paper was thrown down. "You should know that the board called me. They are afraid that you are going to have a mental breakdown." James laughed. "Because I'm a dad? Because you're taking everything you built apart?" Victoria's calm broke down. The James the first knew would never, the James you knew was empty. He got up. You knew James who judged his worth by the prices of stocks and deals to buy other companies. Now, I now use science projects and sports games to test it. Victoria looked at him for a very long time. You've changed for the better. I hope it's for the better. She took her box of things out of the closet. She turned around at the door. Those boys. They should be worth it. James thought about how Michael would want to protect him. Thomas's brave imagination. Daniel's mind was interested. He would never get back the years he missed. And he refused to miss times in the future. He just said, "They are. They're really valuable." James called Sarah after she left. Is the boy still awake? Trying to get into the school's method for giving grades. Tell Thomas that's not right. Sarah laughed. Tell him yourself. You're still going to dinner, right? James checked out his desk. Trust papers and company papers cover it. Pics about money, power, and leaving a legacy. It didn't matter at all. I wouldn't miss it. Daniel, your dad is here. Sarah rang the bell. It smelled like lasagna in the house. James's new favorite food since he found out that his boys had received his hunger. He found himself coming here more in the evenings, attracted by the well-organized chaos of homework, computer games, and 3 different personalities getting to know him and including him in their world. Thomas screamed down first, "Dad, I made the app work again after that bug." The one about scheduling? No, the one that kept hitting things when Thomas stopped and looked at Sarah's face. The app that is totally hypothetical that we aren't making for fun. Sarah shook her head and tried not to smile. At least he is honest about breaking the rules. Michael then showed up with a clipboard in his hand. Please sign this, Dad. It has to do with the robot race. The one in a month? James looked for a pen. Next week? Michael fixed it. I told you 3 times. James stopped moving. The meeting of the board? It got quiet in the room. Daniel, who had just joined them, looked at his brothers. Michael quickly said, "It's fine. Mom can..." "Not at all." James took out his phone and sent a quick text. "You can change the time of the meeting. But isn't it important?" Daniel asked. "Not as important as this." In a fancy way, James signed the paper. "When should I get there?" Michael's face lit up. 9 a.m. Now we're in the second round. James watched Sarah and the boys play together easily while they ate dinner. The inside jokes. The messages that are kept quiet. The years they had spent together that he had missed. Sarah noticed that you were quiet as she helped him with the dishes later. Time to think about it. Subject that is dangerous. I missed a lot. She got a plate from him. Their first words. The first steps. You're now here. Thanks to your rude acceptance of the offer. Sarah laughed. Not my best time. No, it was great. James cleaned his hands. You were very aware of what you were doing. I was sure you had to see them, to figure out what you had missed. Brothers arguing about how to play a video game could be heard in the living room. James said in a soft voice, "I get it now." Sarah briefly touched his arm. "You do, I know it." The time went by slowly, comfortable and hard to understand. Then Daniel's words. "Dad, come settle this. Thomas is once more lying." Or 2. James and Sarah seemed to know each other. She said, "Duty calls." James went toward the mess, to his sons. He was moving toward the life he should have picked out years ago. It's better to be late than never. James sat in his doctor's office and looked at the results of his MRI. It looked like the words were floating off the page. Not nice. 6 months. Not many treatment choices. Mr. Mitchell. Dr. Roberts leaned in. Do you want me to go over the choices again? Not at all. James took his time folding the papers. I get it. He was confused as he walked to his car. He thought the headaches were caused by worry 3 months ago. Getting dizzy from working too hard. His phone rang. A message from Michael. Go ahead and beat Tommy at chess. When are you going to come over? James pulled over because he was suddenly unable to drive. How do you tell 3 10-year-old boys that their new dad is leaving? He called Sarah. James, you should be at... I need to see you alone without the boys. His voice must have warned her in some way. I'll see you at that coffee shop close to work. After 20 minutes, Sarah saw the look on his face and got them both strong drinks. Really? It was a quiet question. They were moved across the table by him. I saw her read them. I saw her hands start to shake. 6 months? Her voice broke. If I'm lucky, possible treatments could last me a few more months. Not going to help. Sarah put her hands over her eyes. I know about the boys. James' voice sounded empty. I finally learned how to be their dad, so don't do that now. Sarah took his hand. Do not give up. I am not giving up. I'm being honest. He got more papers out of his bag. Everything is now correct. The trusts. The business has shares. Watching over. Put it down. You need to look after them. They need their dad. They have their mom. James gave her a squeeze. You're enough all the time. Sarah began to cry in private. How are we going to tell them? All at once. James said with force. Like we should have done everything from the start. His phone rang again. Thomas this time. Daniel says that triple telepathy is not the same as quantum interaction. You said you would explain. James looked at the message for a long time. Having a hard time with time. Too much was lost. Not enough left over. He chose tonight. Tonight is the night we tell them. Sarah wiped her eyes and nodded. We don't think they're that strong. They're our kids. James pulled off a weak smile. They are, of course. They stayed still for a little while longer. 2 parents are having a hard time talking to each other. 3 boys who deserved so much more time with their dad than life was giving them brought them together. James thought about the times he wished he had been there. And the ones he wouldn't get to see. The graduations. First dates. College. But he did now. He had today. It needs to be enough. James sat down at his desk. He saw 3 leather-bound notebooks spread out in front of him. His hands were shaking because of the medicine. He had to force himself to write clearly, though. Dear Michael, he started with the first book. You're the guardian. That person who makes sure your boys do their homework and eat their vegetables. Like when I saw you catch Thomas after he fell off that skateboard. He stopped because he was feeling dizzy. The doctors told him he had 4 months left. He was going to use every minute. In the second book. Thomas, your mind works the same way mine does. Always moving quickly and seeing links that other people miss. You have something I never had, though. The guts to put other people ahead of your own goals. It was hardest on the third. Daniel, I love how interested you are in the world. It makes me think of your mother. The way you question everything. Try to understand more than what's on the surface. Each one had different memories written in it. Michael had learned too late how to be a good boss. For Thomas, the real stories of his wins and losses. Daniel spent as much time as possible with the scientific ideas that led his life when he wasn't writing. Teaching Michael how to play chess. Fixing bugs in the code with Thomas. Daniel and I are talking about physics. Sarah stood off to the side and took pictures of everything on her phone. She would say softly, for later. The boys knew he was not well. They took it better than I thought they would. Using all of their united smarts to do research. Advising on treatments. Having a fight with doctors. Michael said every day, we're not giving up. Thomas argued that there was always a way out. Daniel said that statistics aren't always right. James wrote at night when his pain kept him up. Do you remember when we built that volcano? Your first battle with robots. When you tried to get into my phone. Every experience is important. Each moment written down in ink. Besides the text, he drew sketches. Simple routines were coded. Drew used maps to find secret knowledge that he had found too late. He wrote in each book that the most important thing was to remember that success isn't measured by money or accomplishments. Moments like these show how much it means. It got thicker in the papers. His hands got less strong. But the words wouldn't stop. For his boys. In case they need it. For all the talks they wouldn't be able to have. Are you ready? As Sarah helped James fix his tie, she asked. He saved energy by nodding. 3 months had passed since the word was given. Michael competed in his second robotics event today. His group had made it to the finals. Sarah went on. The boys are already there. Michael is scared. He shouldn't be. James was able to smile. He is very smart. There was a lot of energy in the school gym. James saw his kids right away. Three blonde heads hunched over a robot making last-minute changes. Dad! They ran over and gave him a tight hug. Since his last hospital stay, they were more careful around him. How is our champion? James asked Michael. Before Michael could answer, Thomas said, the servo motor is acting up. Daniel added that the math is correct, though. James looked at their robot. Show me. They did work together. Like in the old days, for heads were hunched over code and circuits. James's hands were too shaken to help, but he could still think clearly. That's where he pointed. The link isn't tight. Thomas quickly fixed it. It was hummed to life, and speaker called out that there were 2 minutes left. Mom? Michael seemed upset. Dad, can you stay until the end? Sarah took a quick look at James. Both of them knew he needed to rest. James said, wild horses couldn't pull me away. There was a lot of competition. Michael's team kept moving forward in each round. James saw his son lead with confidence, deal with setbacks with grace, and be humble when he won. In the final round, their robot did a great job. James cheered the loudest when Michael's team was named the winner, even though he wasn't very good. We did it. Michael ran to his parents with the prize in his hand. Dad, we did it. You did it. James made a small correction. Everyone. Later, James went home to watch his kids have a party. Sarah looked him in the eye and understood what he was saying. No regrets, she said in a low voice. Just one. He saw the boys having fun together, not having enough time. They have everything they need from you. James thought about the notebooks that were still at home. Those pages were filled with lessons, memories, and love. Almost everything, he said in a low voice. But James knew Sarah was right after seeing how his kids led, how creative, and how smart Daniel was. Everything would be fine. They were his gift, his most important success, his ideal code. Sarah sat in the backyard she knew well and watched 3 15-year-old boys work on computers together. The treehouse that James had started to build was long since finished and is now where they code. Thomas called down to Mom. We found one more. She carefully climbed up and ducked under the door that said Mitchell Brothers Tech Lab. Inside, she saw 3 matching smiles. Just look at that screen, Michael said. They are hidden in Dad's old code. It was yet another Easter egg. Before he died, James hid dozens of them in TechVision's code. He left his sons little clues, puzzles, and lessons about life to find. Daniel read out loud. Remember that success without family is just numbers on a screen. Sarah touched the old book that was sitting on her lap. James had one of the 3 left. The boys still read them often, and as they got bigger, they found new meanings in them. She said in a soft voice, he would be proud of you. He would too. Michael was now president of his class and had already been accepted to MIT. In code, Thomas had just won his 3rd title. CERN was interested in Daniel's study on quantum physics. But what was more important was that they were good people, kind, helpful, and united. Thomas looked up from his laptop and said, Hey, Mom, do you remember the first time Dad came over? With that invite to the wedding? Sarah laughed at me to make me feel bad. The worst thing he ever did. Michael smiled. Daniel put his laptop away. At the end, do you think he knew how much he had changed our lives? Sarah thought back to James's last days and how he insisted on going to all of his school events, writing down everything, and doing this until he could no longer hold a pen. She told him that you had also changed his life. Like always, the boys went back to their code with their 3 heads hunched together. James had taught them how to play soccer in the yard, and they had built that volcano that blew up on the patio. This was also where he had last hugged them goodbye. Even though they were only together for a short time, it was perfect, just the way he had programmed it to be.
I hope you enjoyed this thrilling journey. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this story? Let me know in the comments below. Your feedback inspires more epic tales.